You know what we must first say. The problem with our police service is they even lack originality. These kind of scripts have been used before. When the late Minister Robert Ojwang was killed in his home, they said he shot himself in the head. He didn't die. He took a can of petrol, doused himself on fire. He didn't die. So he tied himself on the legs so that death escaped. It's the same. If ordinarily ask any medical expert, someone hitting his head on the wall, assuming he does the first hit, the nature of injuries is going to sustain immediately immobilizes him or reduces his strength to even do a subsequent hit.
To keep hitting.
Because once you hit yourself and you suffer an injury, your body gets demobilized. So you don't have the same strength that you had from the first hit. So what they're trying to tell us, these are movies. What you witness in movies of somebody hitting himself on a wall until even they break the wall, that is just cinema. That's not real life. In real life, you hit your head on the wall, you start losing your senses. You start becoming weak and weak. So that even the subsequent hits will not be as fatal or as strong as the first hit.
Yeah.
So it cannot fly. And in a police station, you even ask yourself, why was Albert Ojwang kept in a separate holding facility? Why was he being treated separately? What was the differential treatment that he was being accorded? Why? Because if it was just a question of enforcement of the rule of law, it was about law and order. At Central Police Station.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a sad day which the whole country and the international community are mourning the death of a young man, Albert Ojwang. He was innocent until he was pronounced dead in one of the police cells. When he was drawn from his mother's bosoms in Homa Bay, in the glare of his relatives, wife and child, only to be announced later, less than 24 hours. But what I want to speak about concerning his death is that it is one of the deaths that has caught people's attention. Many people have died in the hands of the police. Many have been killed in extrajudicial killings. Some have succumbed through police brutality. But some will never be forgotten. Some must be remembered and remembered properly. And one of such names which will not go unrecognized is the name of Albert Ojwang, the son to Mzee Meshack Ojwang. When you listen to that old man narrating the genesis and chronology of all these events that ended the life of Albert Ojwang, you feel for him and you empathize. You feel like shedding tears if you are a parent. Being the only son and the only child of the family, indeed it was sad. And that is why even at his age, a 31-year-old man, his father could still spend the night to trail him up to where the police officers who arrested him took him. They tried to take him round to try to hide evidence. But I want to tell you that they got it wrong this time around. But ladies and gentlemen, I have followed a certain interview on Lynn Ngugi's YouTube channel, trying to discuss and to deliberate on this issue with the constitutional lawyer, Willis Otieno. And this is the part of the interview they did.
Ojwang in Homa Bay. Who were the ones who accompanied him from Homa Bay to Nairobi? Who were the ones who presented him before the OCS? And on whose instructions were they acting? Those are the persons of interest, not the OCS. The OCS even probably was not even at the police station. But it is these people who had more interest in whatever they are claiming Albert had done that is wrong, that we should be focusing on. We want to see those people. Are they police officers? Is it a militia group? Is it a killer squad that has been set up? And who is this complainant that can make a suspect be moved from Homa Bay all the way to Nairobi, when we have police stations in almost 4 counties that you are passing from Homa Bay to Nairobi? We have courts right from Homa Bay to Kisii, to Narok, Nyamira, Kiambu, Nakuru, all the way to Nairobi. Why not arraign him in any of those courts? Why didn't they issue summons to Albert to appear before a police station based on any investigations? And this takes us back to what should be the standard practice when it comes to investigations of some of these crimes, because these are not what you can call cognizable crimes. In this kind of instance, the courts have held that you start by issuing summons to a person.
Okay.
If the person fails to honor the summons, is when you can effect an arrest. Issue summons, conduct your investigations. If you have sufficient evidence, then you arraign the person in court. The only instance when a police officer should be arresting somebody and detaining somebody is when they commit a cognizable crime that does not need a warrant of arrest. But these particular ones, these cyber crimes, they are not cognizable offenses that you can say, you've committed an offense in my presence, I'm arresting you, detaining you immediately. No. You've gone to look for him wherever he is. Summons will have sufficed. And then also, more importantly, we must also question this emerging practice of keeping suspects and detaining them in police stations. Detention in a police station should only be for purposes of someone who has committed a cognizable crime and there is a risk that he may run. He may not attend to court. There is a right to bail. And the OCSs in charge of all police stations have a duty to give bail to persons who are presented before them. Detention in police stations should not be what we call a pretrial punishment, like they're trying to do nowadays.
Or an intimidation tactic.
It's an intimidation because it means they're trying to detain you in a police station to punish you even before a determination is made whether you are guilty or not.
One of the things that people have been asking is, what kind of crime is this? First, they said that he was arrested for falsely publicizing some statements on his ex account. And people are now asking, where does this fall under? Is it a civil matter or a criminal matter? And if so, could you please expound on both?
It is important that we note that we do not have in Kenya criminal defamation. If somebody writes something that is false about you and it injures your reputation, your only recourse in law is to sue for defamation, a civil wrong, where you will prove that the statement was not factual and that it injured your reputation. But also the person you are suing in the civil courts has a defense. One of them that whatever was published was factual, or it was in the public interest for that information to come out. Then, if you are to succeed, your remedy is compensation, monetary compensation. The courts long ago determined that criminal defamation is unconstitutional, and we do not have it in our laws today. But what we are witnessing in the recent past are public office holders trying to re-engineer different offenses in the Cyber Crimes Act or similar acts to try to find a way in which they criminalize publication of information online that they deem to be injurious to their reputations. So they are trying to reintroduce criminal defamation through the back door. And that must be condemned. And the courts now have to put their foot down and say, no, you cannot reintroduce criminal defamation through the back door. Anybody who feels their reputation is injured, your recourse is to file a civil suit. And if you're in a public office,
Yes.
part of the provisions of our Constitution, Article 10, is on accountability. You must be held to account by the people in whose honor you're supposed to be serving. And when you are questioned by the people, you cannot try to hide under some obscure acts to claim that it is an infringement of cyberspace. It's not. If you do not have a thick skin, then get out of that office. And it is important in this particular instance. We need to know the identity of the complainant. Some online posts have suggested that Deputy Inspector General Langat was the complainant. If he is, then he must come out and tell the people of Kenya, because he's holding a public office. And in that office, he has a duty to account to the people of Kenya. If he was the complainant, then we must ask ourselves the question, was he abusing his office to deploy officers from Nairobi to go and arrest somebody in Homa Bay, keep him in custody without giving him the right to bail, ignore all the police stations from Homa Bay to Nairobi, ignore all the courts, and bring him to Central Police Station? And we must also ask him, in so ignoring these police stations and these courts that are along the way, was the intention for him to die in Nairobi? So DG Langat owes the Kenyan people an explanation. He is now a person of interest. If the information that he was the complainant is true, he must account to the people of Kenya.
Should the police service in their statement, should they have said who the person complaining was? Should they have stated who the complainant was?
In fact, the first step that the police ought to have done is to say, yes, Albert Ojwang was in our custody. He was under investigation for the following offense. Indicate the name of the nature of the offense and indicate the complainant. Who was the complainant in that case? Then we will look at who is this complainant who is able to marshal an entire police unit to move a suspect from Homa Bay to Nairobi. Is it your ordinary complainant, or was somebody abusing his office and his position to pull strings to achieve this heinous objective? That is a question that the police service must give us. That statement which they released back to sender, it doesn't meet the test of Article 10 on accountability. There must be full accountability to the people of Kenya. Why in this particular instance the suspect was moved, why the suspect was denied bail, and why summons were never issued to this person from the beginning. Why was he being treated like someone who was already predetermined that was going to meet his death? That the police service must explain to the people of Kenya.
Legally, how is it supposed to happen? I mean, I'm in Homa Bay. I've been arrested in Homa Bay County. Are you not supposed to, the proceedings, are they not supposed to take place in my area of jurisdiction? And for someone to move me from Homa Bay to Nairobi, what legal procedures must they have followed?
So once you watched that interview and you listen critically on how lawyer Willis Otieno in trying to explain this whole event word by word in constitutional manner and trying to intersect the entire event and the areas where the Constitution offers guideline on how to deal with such kind of crimes, and the loopholes where the police have gotten advantage to exercise too much authority as they did. But before I proceed, ladies and gentlemen, please take a moment, a minute or two, to subscribe to our YouTube channel and to our subscribers we want to appreciate you for your support, because if it wasn't your support, this YouTube channel could have not been where it is at the moment. Thank you. Now, let me bring the political aspect of this murder into this interview. You know, you could hear people mentioning Ruto and the government. Too much on this. Number one, they could draw the name of the president on this issue being the head of the state, the head of the government, and the chairperson of the Security Council, and a man who is in charge of all Kenyan security. But on the political aspect, I don't think that this could do much to the president. Killing Albert cannot add votes on the president. And if at all the person who did this did it to please the president, or maybe to silence Kenyans, or to demoralize the young men who are trying to use the X or any social media platform to share their view, got it wrong. Because it is going to mess them. In fact, they've now messed the president more than it was when the country was still trying to heal from the atrocities, and the victims of police brutality are still trying to cry for justice. And when the country was still in the mood of healing, because healing needs time, time will be the judge. The families are still in court trying to seek justice for their children who were murdered through police brutality. Some of the families are still asking for the remains of their kins, children, mothers, and fathers who disappeared in the hand of abductors. The questions have not yet been answered, and the same system are still continuing to make and commit the same mistakes. I've seen how a police IG, Douglas Kanja, trying to address this issue and to try to cool down the nation, to try at least to give some answers to an unanswered question. But the public is not satisfied by the answers he gave and the solution the police service is trying to offer to the people and to the family. Speaking about interdiction of some of the officers attached to this event in one way or the other, starting from the OCS of Central Police Station down to the officers who were on duty on that day, without mentioning their names, as the people demand and as the Law Society of Kenya also demand, because just mentioning their ranks and without mentioning their names is another form of cover-up and to protect the officers who are involved. The theory around the death of Albert in Central Police Station does not make sense. Today, there is a protest staged both outside the City Mortuary and also in front at the Central Police Station. And I listened to some of the Protestants. They were trying to invoke the spirit of Modoni and Haridhuku, who were once killed along that street in 1926. And they are saying that it is in the same police station where they were killed. And in the same way, Albert was killed. Is it a spirit that keeps on demanding for blood? Is it a problem that was started by the colonizers, and sometimes it begs for blood, for revenge? Let me tell you this, gentlemen. Albert's death will not go in vain. Albert's death is just like the Rex Masai's death. And if the officers who did so cannot be arraigned in any court, then we will know that we have no country. Just as they did to the officers who killed baby Pendo we should also see this. We've seen some of the officers who exercise too much authority and go beyond their limit to execute human beings arraigned to court. We also expect as a country, because that is the best this country can give to the family, to serve the justice. Because when the justice delayed, it is justice denied. As early as now, because the arrest happened just Friday last week, it is less than 48 hours. The police can still trail who did this and why. Because the accusation level against the deceased is not that heavy and weighty that deserve one's life, that can beg for one's blood. These are cases that can be trialed in the court of law, just as we saw on the other day when Ross Jerry was arrested about the issues of cybercrime. Why kill Albert? So whoever did this, we can say that he got it wrong. And I know where they are regretting. But the whole world is watching. The country is watching. What the people are waiting is to see justice being served. Why did they suspend the Constitution? Why did they suspend the human rights? Why is it that it was designed for Albert never to know peace? Why was it designed that Albert's life must be made painful, difficult, and regrettable? Did they kill him mistakenly? Or was it a script which had been written and was just being executed just as it was planned? How can an arrested person, a detainee, kill himself through knocking his head on the wall until he dies? Because according to the police report, is that he was found unconscious when the police were doing routine cell checkup. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the deaths that will be followed, will attract the interest and the attention of not only Kenyans, but the eye of international community. Whoever did this is continuing to dampen the spirit of Kenyans. But this person is continuing to cause more harm than good to the government. Are they failing the president by force? Ladies and gentlemen, these are some of the questions that we cannot answer now, but time will provide the answers. Thank you, and may God bless you.